Hey everybody, it's Rob and Aaron again. We've been getting a lot of questions about people wanting to know Aaron's side of this relationship and how everything works. And I made that up. We haven't been getting questions. We don't have that many followers. We have a lot of people that are supportive in our lives and stuff, but it's not like we have a huge online following that are like, ooh, tell us more. We just feel like this video with questions that we've put together would be helpful for some, and so we decided to make it. So let's get started. This is mainly focused on Erin, so I will be asking her questions, and she'll be answering, and I'll interject if need be. So, how do you identify?
As a straight female.
Okay. And you were born female, so you would be considered a cisgendered female. Okay. Let's see. Have you ever been sexually involved with a woman before?
In college, I experimented one time.
Oh.
Typical,
okay.
Right?
Classic.
That's it.
There was this one time in college, but it was just we were just messing around.
Yeah, that's totally what it was.
Oh. Okay.
Next.
Next question. What are your thoughts when I first asked you out on a date, knowing already that I was transgendered, because we had known each other for several years prior to me asking you out on a date. So when I came around to asking you on a date, what were your thoughts?
Well, your wording was, when was the last time you were out on a date? And I was like, is he asking me out?
Yeah.
I don't understand what's happening. So
it could have been misinterpreted as like
geez, you just trying to see how long it's been.
You need to get out and find somebody. So, I'll watch your kid. You go.
You go.
So it wasn't like that. Once you realized that I was genuinely asking, because I knew you were a single mother, and that I've known several of single mothers, and it's very hard for them to find the time to do something for them. They're always focusing on the kid and doing what's best for the kid, and your whole world revolves around responsibilities and what needs to be taken care of, whereas you are sometimes put on the back burner by yourself because you put the child first. And with me knowing that, I genuinely wanted to treat you to a time out, and I also wanted to include him if that was possible, so we could all just... You wouldn't have to worry about a babysitter because you had just moved here from Michigan. So, yeah. I guess I kind of cut you off on your answer.
You did. You totally answered it. It's
Whoopsie.
Fine.
So your thoughts were...
So initially I thought you were joking.
Okay.
When I realized...
Because I'm a big jokester.
Yes. When I realized you were serious, I was then worried about what it would do to your relationship with my brother because you guys were such good friends.
Right, yes.
So I wanted to make sure he was okay with it.
I have been buddy-buddy with her brother for several years. A weird kind of a small cluster, I guess you could say. Her brother dated my stepsister for a while, and that was how I had first gotten to know him. He's a really great guy, always willing to help somebody. He has helped me get several jobs at the same places he's been employed by referring me, and just being a good guy that's there for me. Especially when I first started my transition, he was pretty cool about just being a example of a great man for me. So we've been friends for several years,
right?
And I didn't want to ruin that friendship between me and him either, but I guess it's a total different way of thinking. Your brother is so laid back and just level-headed and cool guy that I didn't think that he would give a shit anyway.
Yeah, I mean,
and he didn't.
I knew that he wouldn't care, but I didn't want to be the sister that I'm just gonna find everyone's friend or all my brother's friends and go out with them. I didn't want to be that.
Jam a wedge between his friends and him, and
I didn't want to make it weird for
bros before hoes.
Like if it got ugly, I didn't want it to be weird for him, because he's
right.
Gotta take his sister's side.
If or when I ever break up with you, it could affect my friendship with him. I'm locked in.
Locked.
Or I will be dead. I will be murdered.
Murder.
She's a redhead. Don't trust it. Okay, so moving on to the next question. Were you hesitant when it came to the sexual aspect once our newfound relationship had moved on?
Hesitant, no. Nervous, yes. Just because that's not something that I had any experience with. And I wasn't sure what to expect, I guess.
So you have the typical heterosexual, cisgendered male and female sexual intercourse.
Right.
And that was really all you knew.
For the most part.
Understandable.
Yeah.
Oh, except for that one time in college.
Except for that one time in college.
Tee-hee.
It was one time.
Okay, so, yeah, so you learned a few things from that experience, mostly because, and I will say that everybody is different, and their sexual experience with their partner is different, and some people may not have body dysphoria, and so they may just fool around, whatever feels good, feels good. Whereas I had a few lines to draw, which
That was the other thing that I was like, how do I get around all this?
Yeah, I kind of had to lay everything out for you in my body dysphorias and which areas are off limits, kind of don't focus on these regions, which mainly were the dysphoria that I had with my breasts at the time, which I no longer have that dysphoria. But, yeah, so I kind of eased your nerves when it came to that because I have what I like to call my apparatus, which you think is a funny term for it.
I think that's a funny word.
It is a realistic looking phallic prosthetic for intercourse. And so it's very similar to the sex you were accustomed to having in the first place. So it was nothing like, whoa, what's all this crazy stuff? It was just kind of, oh, is that it? Okay, well, good.
Let's go.
Let's do this. Okay, so it wasn't too awkward for you then,
No.
the whole sexual aspect, with not having any experience with the trans individual.
No, and I think it helped that you were so willing to talk to me and explain things to me, about the changes that come with testosterone and things that I would have never even thought of that came along with using testosterone, and so I think that was very helpful as well.
Good.
And it kind of helped calm me. And the fact that you're so open, I was like,
verbally and educationally, not sexually. I'm not that type of open. But anyways, yeah, so, and I did want to allow myself to be vulnerable and share that stuff with you, just to kind of like ease your mind, and it's a very special thing when two people share a sexual experience together. There's a bonding and a connecting, and I didn't want to start that bonding and connecting with you with me being reserved and closed off. I felt that it was important because we were already so close and knew each other. Like I just wanted you to know all that I had to say beforehand. So I think that came in pretty handy. Okay.
I agree.
So moving on, how did your family take the news since they all knew me before I started transitioning?
Obviously, my brothers, completely fine.
Cool with it?
A-okay.
Mm-hmm.
My father, plot twist.
Plot twist.
My father is a trans woman.
Boom. Yep.
My beautiful father.
Beautiful. She looks way younger than she is. She's amazing.
So do I.
Yes. It must be genetic.
I look like 21 and I'm 25. So
your father is a beautiful woman.
my father is a trans woman, and so obviously has no issue. And has known Rob for a long time, so it was never an issue.
I think she's glad to see you happy, and
I think
we seem to have a comfortable life.
Yeah,
So.
and that's really what's important to her is that, Caleb is safe and happy and healthy, and that I'm safe and happy and healthy, and we are. And I think we have a pretty good thing going, and we're lucky to have what we have.
Yeah, true.
My mother and the rest of my mother's side of the family, not so happy.
Not so accepting.
Not so accepting. My mother said a lot of ugly, nasty, mean things to me. And
when she found out
when
we were
she found
dating.
out, yeah. And I, trying to stand up for myself, didn't know what to say back, so I said some ugly things back to her. But then one day it got physical. There was a physical altercation, and she came at me, and so that happened. And that was in front of my son. And that day I packed all of my stuff and called my brother, and my brother moved me out of her house because I had just moved here. And so I was kind of in between a place to live, and packed all of my stuff, grabbed my son, and left and never went back. And that was very difficult on me. She has not ever contacted me since then, and that was the week before Thanksgiving of 2014. And
so no, hey, I'm sorry, but
no,
I don't agree with that.
I
pulled your hair out.
I knew it was going to be an issue going in. I knew that she was going to be a difficult one to talk to because of the terrible, dramatic divorce that her and my father had. And so, that was a lot of years and a lot of nasty things said and a lot of bitter feelings towards each other. And, my brother and I were kind of left in the middle of, we still love our father and very much, and we still love our mother, but we can't take sides. There's no need to take sides. It's just not, she wants to go and, be who she feels she is. And my brother and I were raised to not be judgmental, and we were raised to love everyone equally and to be accepting. And so we were with our dad. And when, our mother was not accepting at all and has said some really nasty things, and then wants us to believe the same thing, and that's just not who I am. And I don't see it as me becoming a lesbian and now I am just this awful human being to them. I don't see it as that. I see it as you and I have something really special, and way to go. We have a bond, and we have a lot in common, and we're two people that genuinely love each other and want to be together. And
yes,
my family is not accepting of that.
So let's go back to the point that you said your mother refers to you as a lesbian. She sees you as a lesbian because you're with me, because they knew me beforehand. And I just want to bring up that aspect of it, because I know that you were also about to talk about your grandmother and stuff like that too, but they seem to focus on the genitalia aspect of which is not even something that I display. They just know that I was born with girl parts.
Right.
And so I find that interesting that these people that are, they have their religious convictions or whatever, but they're judging me and you based on my private parts, which just seems kind of a really narrowed way of thinking, where I visibly look like a man, I live as a man, I raise Caleb as a father figure, and nobody else sees me as female, yet they see you as a lesbian now because of my body parts that they knew I was born with. So yeah, I find that interesting that there's that view, and I don't know if they get that from the 700 Club or if their pastor preaches it on Sundays or whatever. I'm not sure where they get their information or way of thinking, but I think that it's very, very narrow-minded, and I wish that people could open their minds a little more to the concept of how people identify and how they are viewed and how they present themselves, rather than private parts, which should be private and not anybody's business. But
because we're taught in kindergarten that you just don't go flaunting your parts.
Right, you don't shove it out there for the world to see. Unless, of course, there's certain people that are paying to see that, and you're getting paid
completely different
totally
scenario.
different scenarios, and that's not what we're talking about here. I'm not getting paid, nor are they paying me anything to do with my private parts. So I don't know why that needs to be brought up. But you are not a lesbian, and you do not identify as a lesbian. No. Correct?
Correct.
Whew. Okay.
Because if I did,
this whole relationship is a lie. Okay, so moving on. How have your friends reacted to finding out that you're dating a trans individual? Have they shunned you? Have they marked you with the scarlet letter?
Maybe.
Some of them, maybe.
Some. The friends, all my friends that I'm in close contact with are very happy for me.
The good ones.
They can see that I'm happy and that Caleb's happy and that we have a good thing, and Caleb's well taken care of, and
I'm not aggressive or abusive. All of these things that are sometimes associated with the misconceptions of taking testosterone. I'm not violent.
No.
I don't rage.
Except for that one. No.
No, I don't.
I don't think you would know how.
I'm a delicate flower.
Very much. Yes. So my friends are fine. My friends don't care. There are a select few that I have told. They're my very close friends. And everyone else just sees that I'm in a relationship and that I'm happy. And, if they have questions, they'll ask. Some take it okay and some think it's weird. And, I try my best to answer questions and to be open about it. And because I can understand not understanding. I can see how somebody could maybe not understand, but...
Especially if they don't know somebody personally who is trans or have ever, heard many stories. It's all in the media right now, but if somebody's able to avoid all of that media stuff about trans, then it's just kind of like so unknown, and it's
just a foreign thing, a foreign concept, and if you don't know, you don't know, and that it's fine. That's fine, but don't close your mind off and be unwilling to learn and be open to understanding, and just know that we're two people that are happy, and the fact that one person wants to be with another person, it shouldn't make a difference. Their gender should not matter at that point. So
preach it.
I just did, and
amen.
And my friends are happy for me. And
that's another reason why we do videos like this, is because we're trying to educate, and it may be awkward for some to get up the nerve to ask somebody these personal questions, because sometimes they are personal, sometimes they are intimate, sometimes they're just awkward, and you don't quite know how to tiptoe about asking somebody. So we wanted to do this video to kind of put that stuff out there if you had any questions, and maybe this video might answer some of them. Like you said, there are some friends that don't quite understand, but there's other friends that maybe they haven't picked up on all the cues. Because on Facebook, we actually do a lot of posts, and I specifically, if I tag you in them, I mention trans issues and stuff all the time. So I'm very open about it. It's not like we're trying to conceal this dirty little secret about our relationship or something.
Well, you made it very clear in the beginning of our relationship, and when things were brand new, I wasn't sure. We hadn't told anybody, so it wasn't known that we were planning to be together. But you made it very clear that if we were together, we're not going to hide anything.
Yeah, it's not going to be
You
closeted.
don't hide who you are, and I've never hidden who I was. So,
yeah.
I mean,
I've lived and learned from that lesson. I have
Right.
been in a relationship before that was very secretive and sneaky, and our love couldn't be public, and no holding hands and stuff like that. And that is a miserable life to lead, and I feel like it's fake, and I don't want to be fake. And so I just wanted to have our relationship be as freely flowing and open and honest as it could possibly be.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that's going good. So let's move on to this last question I have here. Is there anything that you've learned or gained from dating a trans person that you didn't know prior?
I have learned the importance of using proper pronouns.
Good one. Good lesson to learn.
Which took me a long time when it came to my father. Who I still call my father, but she is my father. So I didn't take it as seriously, her transition. I didn't take her transition as seriously as I should have, mostly because I didn't understand. And then, I spent 30 years of my life calling someone dad and knowing dad as a man, and now I have to switch my brain and to a completely different way of thinking, and seeing him become a her was very confusing.
And foreign.
I didn't...
At that time you weren't educated.
No.
Just like some of your friends aren't.
I had read a couple of books that Dad had given me to read to try to help me understand. But I think until you know the person and until you get to hear their story, you don't really understand.
It doesn't quite hit you.
Until it becomes something personal about them, you don't... you just look at it from the outside as somebody is just going through a phase or,
right.
Something like that. But until
they're
you know...
mentally unstable, and maybe it's just one of their personalities.
Yeah, or they're on drugs, or, well, it's not that they're trans, it's that they're gay. That's it. That's it right there. And...
Yeah, very, very skewed.
So, I've learned proper pronouns are very important to the way that I could make you feel, or the way that I would make my dad feel when I would call her him. Mm-hmm. It's like I would never call you her, and I don't think I've ever referred to you as a her. I think I've always known you as Rob.
I think I've slipped up on myself more than anybody has.
I knew you before your transition, but I knew that your transition was imminent at that point because you talked about it all the time, and there were books that you had when I was over at the house that one day, and you had all these books and you were showing us. So I kind of knew at that point, but it didn't change how I viewed you because you were still Rob. Mm-hmm. But it was more difficult with my father. That's It just was. I can't explain it, but...
And maybe at that time your relationship with her was not as close where you felt you could have that in-depth, emotional, clear conversation
right.
about all the ins and outs of why you should be changing the way you use pronouns with her and such. We have bunnies. If you hear something weird, I hate them.
He loves them.
Anyways, yeah, so it wasn't until when we started dating, I was noticing Erin was talking about her father and using male pronouns. And I called her on it a couple times, and she didn't realize how often she did it. But you started, once I explained to you how it would be for me if somebody were to misgender me and use the wrong pronouns, I feel like that kind of hit home a little closer for you to understand like how it really affects her. Even if she's not here, we were talking about planning on having her come down for Thanksgiving and Christmas, the holidays and whatnot. And even without her here, it hurts me to hear her use the wrong pronouns for her dad. So we kind of had an in-depth conversation about how, if the tables were turned and somebody was doing that to me, how that would affect her personally as well. And so I think that was an eye-opening experience, and definitely made you actively try much more. And I haven't heard you slip up or anything now with using the pronouns.
It's very few and far between these days, I think, because now it's something you have to work at. It's not something that is just like, oh, I'm just going to change the way I do it, and he is now going to be she, and that's that. And it's, I still see my father as my father, the person I've known my whole life. I just see her as somebody just
she's
looks
morphed
different.
into a beautiful butterfly.
Right. And, I guess one day I hope that my family will come around, and I guess I just hope that one day they will want to talk to me instead of just assuming the worst or thinking these terrible things or not liking me because of a religion. I guess I just hope that maybe one day they'll want to talk to me and understand. And it's really difficult that I've lost my mother. It's hard.
I can't even imagine. I mean, what's sad is that, she's still living, and it's almost like that you've lost a parent, like, because she's just not in our lives anymore. You don't get to have those conversations in a kitchen with her over, whatever topics, mommy-daughter stuff anymore, because she has chosen to not love you unconditionally. She has chose to walk away from you and your son, her only grandchild, because of her way of thinking and about how my identity somehow now changes your sexual orientation. And it's not even something that society can view. So I'm not sure why it affects her, or she thinks that it's such a big thing against her. But the way that she has acted toward you, I feel like is it's uncalled for anybody, whether it is a stranger passing by or a past lover or a parent. Nobody, I think, should physically assault another person because of their beliefs. There's no cause to hurt somebody like that. That's just my opinion. But, wow, way to bring it down. God, that was depressing.
Right. Anyway, I have gained an amazing partner.
Oh, well,
and a couple bunnies that he had to bring into this house.
That's true, and I hate bunnies.
You love bunnies.
And I hate that they're in the house. And I hate that they poop all the time, even when they don't know about it.
But he gives them filtered water. He wants them to have only the finest.
They do drink only the finest filtered water.
Hence, you love the bunnies.
We'll see. Maybe I'm just trying to sweeten them up for the stew I'm going to put them in.
They're going in the pot.
So let's bring it back to the question at hand. So
let's bring it back to me.
You have learned. Yeah, let's bring it back to me now, people. You have learned the usage of proper pronouns and how people identify in that way. Is there anything else that you've learned or gained since dating me? What about body dysphoria? Do you have a deeper understanding of body dysphoria?
Yeah.
Okay.
That it's not. It's so much deeper than just your basic.
Your basic. Like this. Oh, I hate my flabby belly.
Right. And it's something that I think that I can see now with some people that I've spoken to. It's something that for some people makes them do irrational things.
Yeah. It can get drastic.
Up to suicide, and I think that's awful. And I guess since I've never felt that way, I've hated lots of things about my own personal self.
Yes, you are your own worst critic.
Yes. And, there are some people who obsess and are really, really hate this about themselves. And I don't know that I've ever been that obsessive, but I can see that the dysphoria is on a much deeper level. And
yeah, it's very psychological, especially when you feel so lost or trapped, stuck with this thing that you can't afford because of healthcare or whatever reasons, or there's no possible way. You just can't see that you will ever be able to rid yourself of this dysphoria. There's a lot of mental health and psychological stuff that surrounds that I think you've definitely gotten to learn through the topics that we get to discuss and stuff like that. And I personally, my dysphoria with my top half was pretty bad, and it was to the point where even though I allowed myself to be vulnerable and show her these parts of myself, it was still off limits. Do not pass go, do not collect $200. Don't touch my boobs, I don't like it. And it's just a reminder of that part that is so deeply hated within myself. I will say that I was conscious enough about the feelings I had toward that, but I was not suicidal. I wasn't to that point where I wanted to cause myself any harm. I mean, I had joked before about, I should just cut them off, because going to the ER, if I toss it in the bushes, they're not going to be able to sew it back on. So they'll just...
That was said a lot.
...stitch me up in the ER, and I don't have to go through...
It good.
They can bill me. I don't have to go through all that insurance crap and whether it's covered or not, or, all that stuff. But I would never have taken my own life or anything like that. But sadly, there are a lot of trans individuals. And I think the statistics about trans individuals that are suicidal, it really makes me wonder how that group is focused, whether it is individuals that are currently taking hormones, or if it's people that identify as transgendered but are not yet on hormones, or if there's any psychological issues. There's such a broad spectrum of people that could be lumped into that yes, there are some trans individuals that are on hormones and are on the track that they have chosen to become the opposite gender than they were born to be, that are still depressed and not happy with their progress or the outcome or whatever. So yes, but that can happen with any group of people in any kind of survey. There's people with mental health issues that would be suicidal given certain circumstances. So that's one of the things that just gets me every time, where people like your mother believe all these statistics about trans individuals and how, she thought that I would be aggressive and violent and raging because of something she had heard or read somewhere about trans individuals.
About testosterone.
And testosterone.
And I'm sure if you were, using it incorrectly and,
overdosing or whatever.
Right.
Yeah.
Becoming a rager, of course, it could make you someone completely different. But
that can also happen with cisgendered men who use steroids for bodybuilding.
Exactly.
Or even women that are taking birth control or, adjusting their hormones in ways for health reasons that they're doing it for. I have seen many women that are on their own hormones that can rage or be batshit crazy or irrational and freak out over something so minuscule. Mm-hmm. So that's something that I find people tend to focus on the negative and direct it toward a specific group. But trans individuals are just like everybody else. We can have mental health issues just like everybody else. We can have physical disabilities just like everybody else. And you've learned some stuff from my previous videos before we got together too, like the transgendered individuals using restrooms and how uncomfortable that type of situation can be.
Right.
If there's not a family restroom or a handicap restroom for them to use, which is one of our basic human needs, is just to relieve ourselves. But society has made it pretty difficult to socially be able to do such a thing. So I think that's little things like that.
I think that was one of my first, when Dad first came out to me, or to us, I should say, she was helping me drive cross country from here back to Michigan, because I had found a job out there. And instead of driving alone, she went with me, and driving through, Montana and all these states where there's nothing, and you hear things about, the rednecks that live out there and whatever, and the people that are not accepting of anything other than what they know. And, we stop at rest areas, and she goes into the women's restroom, and I'm like, okay, I need to be there to cover and make sure that nobody's gonna act a fool.
Almost kind of a
like
protector.
Yeah. And
not really a bodyguard, like you'd physically,
I was really worried, though, that at some point somebody was going to say something, because that was very early in her transition. And
safety is a huge issue.
Safety. And that
not
was,
just with trans women, but trans men also.
And it's still today, it's still one of my biggest fears, is that she's going to go somewhere where it's, there's people that are not accepting, and something is going to happen. That's one of my biggest fears.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah, it's hard, and hopefully not. I mean, she is a beautiful butterfly. Like I cannot even believe.
And she's smart, and she doesn't get herself.
When I found out how old she is, I did not believe it, because she